What is going on, everybody? I hope you're having a great day. I asked the question, what's going on, rhetorically, of course, because I can't hear you. You can't really talk with me right now. I mean, I hope you're having a great day, but whatever. Let's just get to it. So the idea behind this channel is for me to try different things, some of which I've never tried or know anything about, others of which I've got some experience with, and some of them I hopefully am pretty good at by this point in life. So today is an example of one of those. I've been doing pottery since about 2011, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to make a section pot. Section pot is basically when you want to throw a really large piece on the wheel that you either don't have the skills to throw in one piece or you just want to go freakish with it. And I prefer making larger pieces. So what you see me doing right now is I'm throwing the base of a 3-section pot. So basically when you attach your pieces, you want to throw them with similar circumferences so that when you stack them, they'll kind of sit right on top of one another nice and squarely, and they won't overlap, and you'll have a good point at which you can connect your pieces. So right now I'm working on the base. So what I'm doing right now is getting my second section centered. Say that 5 times really fast. But I'm getting the section centered here on the wheel, and you'll notice right here, I push with my thumb all the way to the very bottom to open up the floor. You wouldn't typically do this with a piece because obviously if you're throwing something like a vase or a plate or a bowl or whatever, you want a bottom there. But since this piece is going to eventually become the middle section of a vase, I need for it to have no bottom. I need for it to go all the way through. You'll have to forgive this camera angle too. I realize that most of what I'm doing is out of the shot. Something to work on in the future. Learning as I go here. You might notice me right here use an old gift card to clean up a little bit. Something that one of my first art professors in college taught us was the value in making your own tools. Even though I didn't make the card, just finding a creative use for something you already have is a good way to save a buck, and also you'll find clever uses for things that you wouldn't have looked at as a tool before. So here we go, opening up the last section here. I'm going to start throwing this one and actually give it a little shape, whereas with the last one I was really just making it cylindrical to kind of add some height to the piece. But you'll notice on this one over the next minute or so, I'm trying to give the top of this piece its final shape. So what I'm doing now is preparing the pieces for connection. I'm scoring and slipping so that whenever I actually stack the two pieces on top of one another, they'll adhere. And you're going to see something kind of interesting in a minute because I did not actually measure my pieces very well. I haven't been doing as much pottery in the last year or so, so I'm a little rusty. So you see that overhang? And you remember earlier how I was talking about why it's so important for your circumferences to be similar? Yeah, you can see right here I didn't measure quite as accurately as I should have. This is familiar territory. I've been here before. Whenever you're learning how to make section pots, the only way you can learn is by ruining more than a few good ones in the process. But fortunately for me, I pressed on with this one. I really did not think that it was going to work. That, you know, after grabbing it at the bottom and putting some big finger gouges in it, but it cleaned up pretty well. I did get it more or less recentered, and we pressed on. So again, talking about making your own tools, you'll see this rib that I'm using right here. It's called a rib, but it's made from an old dealership tag that I got off of a car years ago. I got a new car at around the height of the time in college that I was really getting into ceramics, and it had the dealership name on this tag. And as I was going to throw it away, I noticed that the font made this interesting curve, and I thought, you know what? This has got some flex to it. If I were to use some tools to cut out this curvature, I could maybe get an interesting tool out of this. And sure enough, it's become one of my favorite tools that I have for making section pots. It helps me get a nice flat side, but it also has a curve on the opposite side of the tool in case I ever need to kind of bow out from the inside of a piece to give it more of a belly, if that makes any sense. So here we go. I'm attaching the top section to the section pot. You can see that I've scored and slipped on the connection points with this one, just the same way as I did the last one. You'll notice that I have used a heat gun at different points throughout this video, and that's basically to firm up sections that are maybe a little too wet still, areas that I need to give a little more support so that the weight of this piece doesn't make the whole thing collapse. So having a heat gun or even a gas torch is a very useful tool when you're doing this. You'll notice too, I do have a little wobble in this piece, but I'm not too worried about it because when you look at the piece just standing on its own, it looks symmetric. So, you know, as long as nothing is standing out, it's not leaning like the Tower of Pisa or anything like that, I'm not too worried about it as long as it passes the eyeball test. And a little trick of the trade you're going to see me do in a second here is take the remaining water out of this piece with a sponge on a stick. If you're throwing a really tall piece, it's very helpful. So what you're seeing me mix up here is called slip. Slip is just a slurry of clay, water, and usually there's some other ingredients in there as well. This is a clay that I dig up myself in Newberry County in South Carolina. I found that fortunately when you fire it at cone 10, you don't actually have to add any additional ingredients to it. There's so much iron and whatever else is in this clay that it will turn sort of a chocolatey, blackish brown once it's fired, and the really high iron content stands out and gives it some really interesting colors. But yeah, all we're doing here is painting on a palmetto tree crescent moon design, which if you're from South Carolina, you know is associated with our state flag. But basically right here I'm just getting the rough shape of the palmetto and the moon, and then I'm going to do some carving to really make it pop. And as the hand clapping indicates, it is officially time to start carving. So here is our finished product, a 3-section section pot with the palmetto tree emblem with crescent moon. Eventually this piece will be fired in a salt kiln. A salt kiln is just a gas-fired kiln with salt added to the environment at its peak temperature. It kind of creates a self-glazing process for all of the pieces inside. But yeah, for now it's done. It'll be fired in the weeks to come. I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed making it.